Trump tells GOP he plans to entirely reverse Biden's EV policy.
Why is it that these big, powerful car companies with guys that are making $35 million a year immediately quit? They say, you want electric vehicles, we'll give it to you, when the damn things don't go far enough and they're too expensive.
Former President Donald Trump is gearing up to reverse President Joe Biden's electric vehicle or EV policies if he returns to office. Trump argues that Biden's EV push is a threat to American jobs, economic stability, and energy independence.
But it's his policies that send Michigan auto workers to the unemployment line.
By prioritizing traditional gasoline-powered cars and domestic oil and gas production, Trump aims to safeguard American livelihoods and maintain our hard-won energy autonomy. So let's see why Trump is so against EVs and why he thinks reversing Biden's EV policies is good for Americans. Criticism of Biden's policies. One major reason Trump is adamant about reversing Biden's EV policy is his firm belief that it is hurting the American auto industry and leading to significant job losses. So let's break this down. First off, Trump argues that Biden's push for EVs is a direct attack onto our auto industry, as we know it. You see, traditional automakers and the countless workers who support them, from assembly lines to dealerships, are taking the hit. Biden's EV policy is like putting a huge thumb on the scale, favoring new, untested technology over the tried and true gas-powered cars that built America. Think about all the factories across the country where hard-working Americans build these cars. These aren't just jobs, they're livelihoods. They're what put food on the table and send kids to college. And when Biden pushes for EVs, he's essentially saying that these jobs don't matter as much anymore. That's a tough pill to swallow for the millions who've spent their careers in this industry. Moreover, the transition to EVs isn't as smooth as Biden might think. It's not just about swapping out one type of car for another. Entire supply chains have to be overhauled. The skills needed to build and maintain EVs are different, and that means costly retraining programs or worse, laying off workers who can't make the transition. It's a messy, expensive process that puts a lot of people out of work. And for what? To push a green agenda that many feel isn't ready for prime time? And then there's the economic impact. Trump points out that the cost of these changes is astronomical. We're talking about billions in taxpayer dollars to support EV production, infrastructure, and incentives. This money could be better spent elsewhere, like improving existing infrastructure or supporting industries that are already strong. Instead, it's being funneled into an experimental shift that may or may not pay off in the long run. Let's also not forget the impact on the consumer. Gas-powered cars are more affordable and reliable for many Americans, especially in areas where charging stations are few and far between. Forcing people into EVs is like making them buy into a tech that they might not want or be able to afford. It's out of touch for what a lot of Americans need. Trump's stance is clear. Biden's EV policy is bad news for American workers and the economy. It's an overzealous push that risks dismantling an industry that's been the backbone of this country for over a century. By reversing these policies, Trump aims to protect American jobs, ensure economic stability, and keep our auto industry strong and competitive. Support for traditional vehicles. Another key reason Trump wants to revise Biden's EV policy is his strong support for traditional gasoline-powered vehicles. Let's dive into why this makes sense for many people. Trump believes in the power of what's familiar and reliable. Gasoline-powered cars have been the backbone of America's auto industry for over a century. They're a symbol of American ingenuity and freedom. The open road, the roar of the engine, and the ability to travel anywhere at any time. It's not really just about nostalgia. It's practically an economic sense. For starters, gas-powered cars are incredibly reliable and versatile. They don't need special infrastructure like charging stations, which are still sparse in many parts of the country. Gas stations, on the other hand, are everywhere, making long trips and spontaneous travel easy and worry-free. This is particularly important in rural areas, where distances are greater and charging stations are few and far between. Then there's the cost factor. Gasoline cars are generally more affordable than EVs. While the price of an EV might come down in the future, they're still way far out of reach of many Americans right now. Forcing a shift to EVs would mean higher upfront costs for consumers, who might not be able to afford these new vehicles despite the promised savings on fuel and maintenance in the long run. It's an economic burden that many families just can't bear. Moreover, the environmental benefits of EVs aren't as clear-cut as some might think. Producing and disposing of EV batteries involves significant environmental costs. The mining of materials like lithium and cobalt needed for these batteries can be incredibly damaging. Gasoline cars, on the other hand, have a well-established supply chain and infrastructure that we've already invested in heavily. Abandoning that doesn't make economic or environmental sense. Trump's policies favoring gasoline cars also reflect a commitment to energy independence. The US has vast oil reserves, and using them supports domestic production and reduces reliance on foreign energy sources. This is crucial for national security and economic stability. EVs, however, depend on electricity, which still largely comes from fossil fuels. Plus, the materials for EV batteries are often scoured from overseas, which could create new dependencies and vulnerabilities. In essence, Trump's advocacy for traditional vehicles is about preserving what works, protecting jobs, and ensuring economic stability. It's about recognizing the value of an industry that has served America well for decades, and being cautious about a hasty transition to new technology that isn't fully proven. By supporting gasoline-powered cars, Trump is standing up for practicality, economic sense, and the everyday American worker. Energy independence. Another compelling reason Trump wants to reverse Biden's EV policy is his strong emphasis on energy independence through domestic oil and gas production. So let's explore why this is such a crucial point for him and many Americans. Energy independence is all about having control over energy sources. For decades, the US has worked hard to reduce its reliance on foreign oil. We've invested in domestic oil and gas production, creating jobs, boosting the economy, and ensuring that we aren't at the mercy of other countries for our energy needs. Trump argues that Biden's push for EVs threatens this hard-won independence. Here's the thing. Gas-powered cars run on oil, and the US has plenty of it. We've built an extensive infrastructure for extracting, refining, and distributing this oil, making it a stable and reliable energy source. When you fill your car up with gas, you're using a product that supports American jobs and the American economy. It's a system that works, and Trump sees no reason to abandon it. Switching to EVs, on the other hand, means a greater reliance on electricity, and the current electricity grid in the US still largely depends on fossil fuels. But the kicker is that EVs require batteries made from materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, many of which are sourced from overseas. This creates new dependencies and potential vulnerabilities. Instead of relying on our oil, we'd be depending on foreign countries for the raw materials needed for EV batteries, many of which come from regions with unstable political climates. Trump's point is simple. Why give up our energy independence for a system that could make us dependent on other countries again, especially when those countries might not have our best interests at heart? By focusing on domestic oil and gas, we keep control of our energy supply, support American jobs, and strengthen our national security. There's also the economic side to consider. Domestic oil and gas production is a major job creator. From the roughnecks working the rigs to the engineers designing the latest drilling technology, this industry employs millions of Americans. These are well-paying jobs that support families and communities across the country. Biden's EV policy risks these jobs by shifting focus away from oil and gas. And let's not forget the broader economic impact. The oil and gas industry contributes significantly to the US economy. It's not just about the jobs directly in the industry. It's also about the ripple effect. Oil and gas support countless other sectors, from manufacturing to transportation to retail. When the oil and gas industry thrives, so does the rest of the country. Trump's stance is clear. We should continue to harness our abundant natural resources and maintain our energy independence. By supporting domestic oil and gas production, we protect American jobs, bolster our economy, and ensure that we're not beholden to foreign powers for our energy needs. In a nutshell, Trump's emphasis on energy independence is about safeguarding America's economic and national security. It's about making sure we're in control of our own destiny, rather than risking it on an uncertain and potentially unstable shift to EVs. By reversing Biden's EV policy, Trump aims to keep America strong, independent, and prosperous. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.